remember from the stories told to me. It was a blood clot, and that was really, that was really all it was. And then, when doctors told me I couldn't eat or drink, um, you know, that was a very hard reality to deal with in the hospital. But, in the hospital, you're also in your nest, so you're kind of protected. My family was there. So the worst part was when, they did all this wonderful work to be, to medically stabilize me. And, months later in the hospital, they really wanted to kick us out because, I was just running marathons around the unit. My mom was in my bed watching Everyone Loves Raymond. My brother was dating one of the night nurses. Whatever happened to Genevieve? But the worst part was when they were ready to give my ICU bed to the kids that needed it. Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. It was the 48 sickest kids in America floated there, and I went from being the sickest kid there to the kid that just did not belong there. But anyway, so they discharged me, and they said, you're medically stable, but you can't eat or drink. So go on and kind of do your thing and live your life, and we'll stay in touch. My people. And so, I mean, that was the worst because everywhere there's coffee and sinks, and my mom was petrified that I was gonna go home and forget and eat a pretzel. I don't know how you would forget that, but that was her biggest fear. She wanted to tape the sink shut or something. But it was a very scary way to live. So I had to purposely numb myself and find ways to not feel hunger, which is basically just shut off all your emotion. Now, when you're healing from trauma, you're not really supposed to do that. So I was really living in two worlds. Does anyone love Joseph Campbell as much as I do in the archetypal hero's journey? I'll get to that, but the end product of the journey is mastery of the two worlds, where the hero goes into this darkness and fights all these battles and comes back with a gift to give society. He's transformed by what he learns. So I was that's how I visualized it. I kind of had my feet in both worlds, trying to think well, I want to live and find the meaning of life, but I'm also kind of supposed to barricade myself from the full experience of being life. And for an uncertain amount of time. The point of my little detour concept was I was dealing with a lot of uncertainty. Waiting so long to be able to eat was because, my insides had to fully heal, but more than that, we had to kind of find someone who could get creative and figure out what to do to make me a stomach. My dad called the head of NIH, and he said, you need a surgeon. You basically need someone that has the nerve to take all the cases that no one else wants. And so that was at Yale Hospital, and it was, in a few parts. It was a 19-hour surgery and 3 shifts of nurses and doctors, which worked for a week. And then I went to California, and the whole thing in healing from post-traumatic stress disorders is you're supposed to take a breath and ground yourself and say, okay, I'm being triggered by this, but the trauma was then and not now. So I would eat and think wow, my stomach really feels like it's gonna explode. And I'd be no, that was before this. And then I'm laughing, but as I was crying. But then my wound really does explode a week later, which I mentioned really briefly in my TED Talk that after all of that, I had to be airbacked across the country to Yale, and that was the scariest for me because for the first time, I really saw that doctors were actively trying to figure out what to do. And I really almost lost hope that any answers would we have. So I want to move along with this to show you how I found this magic hope. These were I became the queen of PTSD. Every one of these symptoms, especially dissociation, I became very good, understandably. about, you know, not feeling anything. I could easily just like switch like in and out of that, you know, as a protective skill, really, which is kind of how I survive not eating or drinking. Now, what I want to, my beautiful, see, I'm an artist. Now, what really helped me was, I think, because I was born like a musical theater ham, and I always had that creative spirit, and I was always kind of like a overachiever, type A, like go, go, go. And I think the third benefit was that I was never really sick before this, so I didn't really know how to act like a victim. But, you know, waking up from a coma, I think my biggest fear was like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be relevant anymore. Like I want to, you know, I didn't want to be a has-been at 18, you know, and it was so strange for me, you know, to see all these people like feel bad for me, and that made me like anxious and angry. Like, you don't feel bad. Like I'm like, I was a dancer and I'm fine, and you know, the psychiatrist that came in the hospital thought I was in denial because I was still saying I was a dancer, and my family around me was still acting like I was healthy. So basically, they all wanted to diagnose us with ICU psychosis because, you know, they thought we were like, why didn't we understand the severity of the situation? But that was really, you know, our container. You know, that was really how we kind of barricaded ourselves from this crazy world and maintained our sanity. And I think this mentality, you know, like acting like things were normal, and making fun of things that didn't feel so normal, you know, that was how I got through. A month after being discharged from the hospital, even though I couldn't eat or drink, I just auditioned. A community theater was doing a local production of Oliver, and I was so yellow from the TPN, which is the IV, you know, intravenous fluid that I was on to feed me through my veins. But I'm like, you know what? I miss being part of a community. You know, that's what I love about theater. This will be good for me. And so I tried out, and I ended up getting the lead. They double cast me because I think they thought I was going to fall over. But you know, even though it was difficult, and you know, I had to be hooked up to TPN at 10 o'clock every night because it was, you know, I had to be cycled. So my dad actually joined in the chorus. So like at 10 o'clock. But I think that really helped me get through. You know, I imagined, you know, this whole uncertain stream, you know, in front of me. You know, I thought like if I can make these like creative containers, like here and then there and then there, you know, I didn't have to think of the whole picture. You know, I could get through a little step at a time, which is why like right after I did Oliver, I really missed like going to Stop and Shop. You don't have Stop and Shop here. You have where will we Publix. That's better than Stop and Shop. But I miss, you know, just having that human feeling of just going grocery shopping. So you know, I started a chocolate business so I could buy candies, and what I realized was just like the tactile experience of just playing with food was some kind of, you know, everyone else thought it was torture, you know, but I can't, you know, explain it. You become obsessed with what you don't have. Like, you know, in the Child Life Center, when I was in the hospital, all the kids who couldn't eat or drink, they were always the ones that wanted to play in the toy kitchen. You know, you have this fascination, which is why I was like hoarding collection of like Cooking Light and watching the Food Network all day in my room. You know, I guess it was giving some kind of relatable distance to it, and it worked. Anyway, let's see what's next on my pretty slide. Okay, this says, do people know Peter Levine and Waking the Tiger? This was a book that really changed my life, because the point was, even though finding these like safe containers of creativity, you know, I was dealing with all this pent up stuff that I didn't know what to do with.